Hi, Tiffany.
Hi.
It's so good to see you. I'm really happy that we get to tune in with each other today because before we started record, you were sharing that there's just some energetic, maybe unsettling with you, and I've been feeling the same way recently. Maybe this has to do with Mercury retrograde. I don't know, but definitely a feeling of a little just unsettledness. So I love this kind of time where we can tune in with each other, and hopefully it will be a good thing for both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am excited to talk with you about your path, really how you came to the work. I know that your empathic abilities and your psychic abilities came on really early for you. And so let's hear a little bit about that first. How did this start for you? And what did that feel like for you? Was it scary? Was it exciting? Or was it something you wanted to stay the hell away from? Like, how did that, how, what was the experience like for you?
I've always been able to see clairvoyantly and heal. Um, I remember even as a toddler seeing auras and ghosts. That part was scary. Um, Being able to communicate with animals and nature. And I just assumed everybody could do it. I mean, it was normal to me. It wasn't until later, that I realized not everybody can do that. And um, yeah, there's just always been something there that I now know as a gift to cultivate, for a lot of people. And I've helped others who wanted to learn how to be more intuitive, clairvoyant, better healers, you know,
Mm.
and so it's just been my whole life's journey. I've been teaching
Mhm.
transformation workshops for over 25 years, and I've been trained in a lot of different healing modalities along the way to hone and refine my skills. And, everything I learn, I then integrate to the best of my ability and help other people.
Mhm. Did you find that when you were a child experiencing this that you could share it with your parents or your family and then they understood, or were they like, what are you talking about?
Well, I think my dad's side of the family was um uh, not open and used to make fun of me and not believe me and even try to scare me. And then
Mm.
my mom, she believed me and she actually did a lot of similar spiritual training when, I was younger in my teens and 20s. We did a lot of the same classes together. So she was always a good support for me.
How nice to have someone close to you that can help you cultivate it, or it sounds like you were doing it side by side together. That's really cool. When you got to the point of going to trainings and actually working on fine tuning the gifts, did you find that as you were learning different ways of healing, that you were guided or led to things that you needed to experience for yourself, for your own healing and things?
Y-
Was that ever something for you?
Yes, I mean, I love learning, I love growing, I love anything that's healing or spiritual related. And, you know, I've I think we all get guidance whether or not we listen to it is its own lesson for many of us. But I remember, early teens, I was studying things like laying on of hands, gemstone healing, shamanism, reflexology, massage. Then I went to college and studied sports medicine and Reiki. And then I became a pranic healing instructor all throughout my 20s. Um, EFT, NLP, Sedona release, summit transformation, Quantum empowerment technique, is actually a healing modality that was downloaded to me that I've been teaching other people how to do. So there's lots of various tools in my tool belt, and I want to improve myself. So I actually, look for areas within myself that I'm out of attunement, out of alignment, so that I can then, have some healing and freedom there, and then be better at walking my talk and helping others.
Mhm. Yeah. That seems to be, I think, the common thing among healers is that there are wounds within to heal. And through the process of learning that, applying that, and being able to then transmute it into a way to help others is such a powerful path, because you get to experience it yourself, right? You get to experience that transformation. Has there been like in and I know this I know this usually shifts over time as you experience all the different things and those different things come to you, and you're met with them at the right time in life. But looking back on the 25 plus years of actually training in and then also downloading these different modalities, is there one or two things that really hit like struck you as holy crap, like this is the holy grail of healing, or this thing really is what I'm going to hang my hat on and focus on because it's that powerful.
I think every time I learned something, I felt like, oh yeah, this is a good tool to add into my tool belt. Um, for physical ailments, pranic healing is super fantastic. Some emotional stuff too. And then Summit Transformation is great for people who want to do like some kinesthetic things with their arms and legs and get aligned with goals. I love the quantum empowerment technique because I get to incorporate ancient Chinese medicine with modern day neuroplasticity and essential oils. And we do a lot of releasing of old stuff that no
Mm,
longer serves, and then energizing the things that you do want, you know? So there's
yeah,
both
right.
a
You're like, don't
cleansing
get rid of all of it.
and yeah, cleansing and energizing phase. Hmm.
Mm, awesome. And that's the technique or set of techniques that you downloaded and
Hmm.
put together into this set of practices. Is it something that someone can learn from you and do
Yes.
themselves, or they have to be working with you?
I have been training a group of coaches and facilitators who are actually graduating very soon, and they're going to be certified to facilitate aspects of my work. And the quantum empowerment technique is one of those areas. So, yeah,
Awesome. So people can, if they don't want to necessarily become trained in it to
they can
do it for
receive.
others, they can receive it through you or one of your other facilitators.
Indeed.
Great.
Yeah.
What's I mean, you mentioned it that it draws in ancient Chinese medicine along with the modern day neuroplasticity, which I believe is just, modern science catching up with the,
With
ancient.
energy medicine, yep, exactly. I mean, there weren't words for energy until, the last 100 years, when the light bulb was even invented, right?
Mhm.
And now there's cameras to actually show energy throughout the body, like with Carillion photography and, aura cameras and things like that. So I love science. I really do, and being able to blend and see the results.
Mhm.
And I also love it when some of my clients show me their medical labs before and after healing, or show me their photo before and after healing, because usually the photo shows them looking younger, more youthful, more vibrant, more radiant, sometimes skinnier, like
Mhm.
releasing all that emotional baggage. So
Yeah.
there's um more than one way to add the scientific validation to it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice for people to actually see real results, visual results, things that they can see and experience that way. What's your personal take on the emotional side of physical illness, disease?
I think it plays a huge role. And it's not just emotions from this life. I think it's can be, sometimes from past lives that are affecting this life as well. There's different modalities that can be done to release the aches, the pains, the inflammation, um, get people healthier. But if they don't then follow it up with the inner work, the ailment could come back. Like I've seen that with cancer. Maybe we've done certain sessions to help get the cancer out of the body.
Mhm,
But if they haven't done the inner work, the forgiveness, the healing of the inner core wounds, childhood traumas, etc., then a few years later or 5, 10 years later, cancer comes back. And sometimes it's even worse than
mm,
before.
yeah,
So there has to be a coupling of the inner and the outer work.
mhm. Yeah, that's how I see it too, of just, we're a being of many layers, and so it's if you're only working on one layer, then whatever the problem is gonna be showing up in other layers, or it's hiding in those other layers, and, to not work down to that deepest core, seems to be it's a big issue, I think, in our culture because people want to avoid anything uncomfortable for the most part. And the more you go deep, the more uncomfortable it becomes for a lot of people, right? So it's getting people to that point of where they're really going deep into those deep, deep wounds and the biggest traumas in their life can be a lot for someone to take on.
It does take bravery. And I also, tell my clients it can be a small homeopathic dose. You don't have to be swimming in the mud, drowning in order to heal the wound. You could have a small homeopathic dose of it, just at least acknowledging it,
Yeah.
and
Right. Baby
briefly
steps.
letting yourself be with it and then release it. It doesn't have to take you out or overwhelm you. So there's nothing to be afraid of. And I also noticed that we have a lot of protective, defensive guards, walls, and shields to try to keep us safe. It's a natural self-defense mechanism. Some of these are conscious shields, some of them, most of them are subconscious shields. So when there's a wound, as you were mentioning, the layers around it, sometimes we've got to peel away several of those layers just to even get to the core wound. And those layers might be encapsulated in numbness. And so the person thinks they're healed, but their life is demonstrating that they don't have the money that they want. They don't have the relationships and, the love life that they want or the spiritual connection. And so their life is basically saying, no, you're not yet healed. But
Yeah.
the numbness has them think they might be healed. And then I'm looking clairvoyantly and I'm like, well, you actually have probably another 10 layers to go, you know? So
Yeah.
let's work on that. And then
That's
they can
incredible.
be their bright and shiny selves in alignment and attunement. And now their life is beautiful and magnifying all the wonderful things and magnetizing the love, the money, the health, the joy, the blessings.
Mhm. When as an intuitive, when you look in and see what's going on with someone, is there, you know, do you need an invitation from that person to look, or is it out of respect for them that you would get that, but you already see what's going on? How does that work for you?
Well, when my clients come to me, there's somewhat of a understanding, right?
Yeah,
That they're
yeah.
they're seeking help and healing.
Right.
And even though when I'm in session with people, I might get a lot of information about them, but I can also sense that they're not quite ready for all of that information. So I either may, you know, wait till later or ask them. There's some things that I am seeing. Would you like me to share them with you? Are you open and receptive to it? There's some things that might feel uncomfortable. It but I think could be very healing for you. Is now a good
Mhm.
time? And give them, a pause to just feel into if they're ready or not, and respect them if they're not. And
Mhm.
when I'm out and about in public, I'm not on, I'm off. I'm not looking at every energy out there because that's just too overwhelming. And
Right.
there's literally like hundreds of thousands of different radio stations and TV stations that we can intuitively tune into. And I don't need all that data. I just want God to show me what is needed for this session, for this person in this moment.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier about how just because it's something deep to heal, it doesn't necessarily need to be this massive, dramatic kind of process of healing, or they could take a homeopathic or some other remedy. So, are you guiding people with that as far as what to take based on what you're seeing? Is that based on training that you've done and all those things, or are you intuitively getting that hit of like, God, let's say, saying like, this is the right essential oil for them. This is the right homeopathic remedy.
I I let them know that, you know, essential oils can be very healing and speed up the healing process. I make some suggestions. If they want to go that route, then by all means. I love incorporating that into sessions. In terms of homeopathy, I meant like an energetic homeopathic dose
Okay.
of the
Got it.
emotions. However, I personally for self-use, have a huge homeopathic pharmacy
Nice.
that I use on myself, and it is fantastic for emotional healing. And, some of my clients, I do get the download. It would be great for them to consider, this or this remedy. And I'll
Mhm.
sell them. I'm not officially formally trained in this. I have used it on myself. Here's an article. If you think this would be helpful for you, go for it, you know,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
seek the help of, a homeopathist who can help you further.
Right.
So that's my disclaimer. I let them know the areas that I'm trained in and what I'm not.
Hmm. Right. And then allow them to do or go, encourage people
Yeah,
to do their own research, right?
exactly.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, the clarification there then of the like a homeopathic dose of energy medicine or of
Right. It's
emotional
like if
healing.
someone
It can
just had
be,
a trauma, I'm not
yeah,
saying go swim in the trauma. I'm saying maybe you stick your feet in the pool, but
yeah.
you're not like wallowing in the mud of the trauma, the pain, the sadness, the fear, the this, the that, that they don't have to um lose themselves in the emotion of the trauma.
Mhm.
So there's an energetic homeopathic dose, stick your
Yes.
feet in the pool of it,
Right. Yeah, yeah. And we speak in the same language because, the training I've done in energy healing, energy medicine, and then afterwards training I did in NLP and a lot of different therapies based on, or I would say they're offshoots of NLP or just similar to it, of
hmm
where there's a lot of change made without going deep. There, the change is wide, but it's not deep. You don't have to excavate in memories. You don't have to actually go and be in a therapist chair and talk it all through and like get to this point. Oh yeah, I remember that, and talk it all out. You can simply be guided and led through these types of protocols
Yeah.
to be guided to let go and go deep without even remembering what it is, which is
It's
cool.
about
Sounds similar.
a
Yeah.
willingness, an openness, a receptivity for the healing. And I actually have a lot of therapists who are my clients and students. They're like, I learn more from you and heal more from you than I did, receiving 20 years of therapy. And I'm a therapist, So there are
Yeah.
ways that talk therapy can be very helpful and needed. And then there are ways when, you know, just being open and receptive to healing whatever that original trauma is, and clearing that out and replacing it with a new healthy story, new healthy belief, new healthy way of being, new healthy habits that
Yeah.
would support someone having more money, having more health, more love, more blessings.
Mhm. You mentioned things like being able to magnetize money and relationships you want and maybe the career you want or just the life that you want. Is that a lot of what you're doing with people? Do you find yourself, or I guess maybe those that are attracted to coming to work with you, are they looking more for those types of things, maybe versus the cancer treatment or some other type of illness
In my
prevention?
20s, I did a lot of the physical ailment stuff. Like, I wanted to help people with releasing cancer and moderate to severe ailments, and I did. But my favorite is doing the deeper core healing, the emotional healing that's actually behind the cause of so many of those physical ailments. So I would say most people who come to me are spiritual, intuitive, empathics, whether they realize they're empathic or not. But a lot of empaths come to me. And ones who are already on the path of transformation, doing consciousness work, have probably attended multiple workshops, yet not quite where they want to be yet. And they've probably been referred by somebody else who has said, "Oh, you've got to work with Tiffany. She's fantastic. She helped me, with X, Y, and Z." And so a lot of people just come open, ready, receptive to up level their lives personally or professionally. And I
Mm,
can see their blind spots. What is in the way? What are their beliefs that are in the way? What is the event that happened when they were 3 years old that
mhm,
has them not make money now,
mhm,
or not be open and receptive to love now? Like, I
mhm.
can help work with them on releasing that.
Yeah, getting right down to the root of things, which
Mhm.
is funny that that's not how all healing is. Like, it's just, it seems so natural to think about, oh, that isn't that how all healing would work, and obviously we know it doesn't, right? But it's like, why wouldn't you go to the root cause? That's silly to just be slapping on the band-aids.
Not everybody's ready for that.
Yeah, it's true.
It Okay, so let me just share one story. I have a client. She's in the transformation industry, big time leader, like lots and huge database, has been teaching for 30 plus years, a master in her field. Yet she's been a client of mine for 13 years, every other week for 13 years. And there were things that I saw 12, 13 years ago, but I waited like 7 years for one thing to tell her, 10 years for another thing to tell her, because she wasn't ready. And I knew she wasn't ready. So it's a kindness to not just divulge what someone's not ready to hear,
Mhm,
because that can be more traumatic than waiting until they're ready.
mhm. Do you
So
have conversations with their higher self, their soul, in order to
sometimes
determine that? Yeah.
I just claircognizant no,
Yeah.
you know, get the divine message and just know, not yet,
Mhm.
not yet.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, trusting in that, right? These divine
Hmm.
messages. Your so you work with a lot of healers, a lot of intuitives and empaths, and people that are working in this industry, and sounds like you're so helpful for them. Do you also work with people who on the maybe the receiving side or on the
Absolutely. I've got a
yeah?
team. I have a
Mhm.
healing scheduled for later today. I mean, I love it. I
Yeah.
Because I give so much, I actually need to receive. Like, I want to receive. And it's vulnerable to ask for help and to receive. And that took, a skill to be
Yeah.
vulnerable and to ask for healing and to receive it. All three of those are like separate skills, right? And and so I do give back to myself in that way. And I'm very discerning as to who I let work on me because I can see how clean or dirty their aura is. I can see what their beliefs are. So I'm only going to work with people who are clean enough, to work on
Right.
me.
Yeah, that's a bonus for you to know
Yeah.
who and who
So,
you're going to exchange with. Yeah,
yeah. So there's about a handful of people
yeah, yeah.
that are
That's so
trained in various modalities that I let work on me.
I think it's an important message for anyone listening who is in the healing, coaching, any type of profession where you're guiding others in their own growth, their own transformation is to be, it's like one thing to have done that at the beginning and then go,
Hmm.
wow, all these things helped me and cleared me and aligned me. And now I'm going to go off and teach all these things. And right, there's that stage, but then, to forget to always be tuning and always be aligning and healing and focused on oneself's, your own energetic fields. That's a whole nother. And I think it's a good message for anybody in these professions to remember that and to continue to do the self work as well.
Well, until we get to enlightenment, we're not gonna be fully healed. Like, there's still gonna be stuff to work on until we get
Always.
to, like, we're an avatar with God realization. Until we get there, there's inner work to do.
Yes, right? And always be healing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so true. I certainly made that mistake back in my 30s, I guess it was, of thinking that I was done. And
Oh.
and whoa, did that come and bite me in the ass later? Like, oh no,
Oops.
sister. Yeah. You and it's so funny because and I think this is probably true of any profession that people can get their ego can rule and anyone can think, oh yeah, I've made it. I'm now the teacher. I'm now the professional. I'm now the one showing others and guiding others. And yes, that could be true, but we're also always the student, right?
Mhm.
We're always and that's true of everybody, even those
And
that are, just starting
professional
to
athletes have
yeah,
coaches, you know?
yeah, exactly. Multiple coaches.
Right.
Yep.
I I um I'm fairly successful in my business. I've been doing it for a long time. I have a Soul of an Empath podcast, a Knowing You show. I've co-authored a few books. I have a TV show coming out called Loved, Seen, Heard that will be out on Apple Plus TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku TV. And I still pay for coaches, healers. I do year-long programs to keep
Mhm.
up leveling myself. I've spent thousands of dollars on
Yeah.
self-improvement, business skills, spiritual growth,
Mhm.
healing programs for a very long time because it gives back to me so that I can keep giving more.
Mhm.
And it also gives more confidence. So when the first time I think I had a bigger thing, it was maybe 12 years, 13 years ago. I spent $10,000 or $12,000 on a program. And that was a lot of money then. That was my biggest program at the time. But then after doing that a few years in a row, I then had the confidence to start charging $10,000 for my programs. Right. And then it went up to $15,000 programs that I bought, and then $20,000 programs that I bought. And now there's this $25,000 program. And actually, I was just talking to someone who wants me in his $100,000 program. Right. So the more we can invest in ourselves and up level ourselves and hone and refine, the more confidence we have to then enroll other people into our programs.
It's a beautiful way to look at money also as this energetic flow, right? If we
Hmm.
just take it in and just hoard it and hold on to it, it stops that flow in as well, right? So you're really in it's beautiful circuitry that you are describing.
Thank you.
Mm. So the Soul of an Empath podcast, which I was on, and it's beautiful that you're talking to empathic people as well as people in the industry, as well as people who don't even work in this field, maybe in these fields professionally. For you, just as a fellow podcast host to podcast host, is it, is part of the reason you do it to be able to, I don't give through those conversations, as people tune in, they hear what they hear, and that could also be healing, guiding, transformative for a listener tuning in.
Yeah, I think my number one human need is contribution. Like in Tony Robbins, human needs, like I'm contribution. Like for me, my first primary desire goal is divine union. Second, contribution. So I live my life from those two places.
Mhm. Yeah. And certainly have lived many lives to get to a place where those are your two
Indeed.
goal of this lifetime.
Yep.
Do you tune into that much as far as where you are on your sort of soul timeline?
I've been seeing my past lives since I was a kid. I actually remembered most of the traumatic ones. I used to
Mm,
have nightmares when I was a kid, remembering past lives of being, raped and tortured and mutilated. And
mm,
when I was in high school, I started going to a hypnotherapist who did past life regression work on me so that I could start healing those and sleeping
mm,
better. And that work actually opened up the floodgates for me to see a lot more of my past lives. And I think it's I think God doesn't have us remember all of them. For most people, it's number one, traumatic, because our past lives we were like barbarians and
mm.
warriors, and, society was not what it is today. It was like dark ages, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot for many people. And then another reason I don't think we remember them is because we'd feel bad and guilty about the things that we've done. And so it
Mm,
takes a lot of self-forgiveness and forgiveness of other people from those, traumatic situations that we used to have. And um, now I mostly just see mine or my clients' past lives that are directly connected to whatever needs to be healed right now.
mhm. Yep.
So if it's a money situation, if it's a love situation, if it's a health situation, and there's a past life connection, some sort of past life bleed over, then that, pops up, as like a photo or a mini movie. And I'll see that like on a screen in front of me. And then, okay,
Mhm.
so we need to do a little work here, and then guide
Mhm.
them on
Mm.
how to clear that. And then they usually feel better.
Mm.
Amazingly.
Amazingly. I love how you could be working on one thing, but it affects all these other things, right? I mean, everything's connected.
Yes.
When you're working on money issues, or I guess even any issue that is common that people come to see you for, are you also seeing very common things? I mean, are there
Yes.
similarities among? Yeah.
Yeah. The core wounds, once you peel away all the various layers, and I like to think of it, instead of layers of the onion, I like to think of it as layers of the artichoke. Because once you peel off those layers, you get to the heart. And
Mm.
that's who we really are at our core essence. But to get there, the main core wounds are usually about not feeling loved, not feeling seen, heard, understood, safe, belong, worthy, or deserving.
Mhm.
Those are like the top ones. And even if you were to peel away all of those down to one, it's love,
Mhm.
not feeling loved or lovable.
Yeah. It sounds so basic and simple
Yet
and
it's
feels
not.
oh, but it isn't. It's so complex. Yeah, there's like, oh man. So even if one realizes that, right, that this is this core issue for them, I didn't feel loved or I didn't feel lovable, that one thing could potentially impact many things in their
Yes.
life, right? Hmm.
Yes.
If someone's ready to face that, they're ready to face maybe the forgiveness that they need to do in order to work through the unlovability or let go of even that um, the story of not being loved, because I think that ends up being people's issue as well. It's like in Buddhist terms they call it suffering the suffering. It's like you have the initial thing and then you suffer from that thing because you are suffering about it, so you're just
It's the meaning we
building
give it.
upon it, right? Yes,
Yeah.
the meaning we give it, the clinging to the story of abuse survivor or, oh, this, wounded person or whatever it might be, and not wanting to let go of that identity, really. And I hear a lot of people use that, in the terms of both mental health and physical health, of even when they give their condition or when they call their condition my
Yep.
cancer, my anxiety, right? Or like really identifying with it. Like how would you describe that from a clairvoyant standpoint
It's
of
like
what is
energetic
grander?
tentacles, like latching on to the energy. So let's say, in the left hand here is a ball of cancer, and then in the right hand, they're grasping that ball of cancer saying, my cancer, and it's like there's this stickiness, this velcro-ness that actually keeps it. So even though I'm trying to like release it, they're holding on to it. So that is one of the things that I talk to them about, is changing the way they're thinking it in their mind and speaking it out loud. So
Yeah,
instead
start
of saying my
there and then.
cancer, it's like, my body is in the process of healing, or my
Mhm,
body is healed. Like, come at it from a different perspective, and only like train yourself to only think in those positive ways. And it's
mhm,
discipline, like it really is, to unhook from the negative mental habits that have been tanking someone for a while.
mhm.
It takes discipline to catch
Yeah.
themselves, and a self kindness, a self love, to not bash themselves when they realize that they're trying to do this new habit and they just did it 378 times in one day. You know? Like when someone's really self-honest and they make like little tick marks of how many times they thought that thought throughout the day, it's probably hundreds
Mhm.
at the conscious level and could be thousands or millions
Right.
at the subconscious level, because for every
Right.
100 to 200 conscious thoughts, there's 11 million subconscious thoughts. So what I
Wow.
go in is help people with their subconscious stuff, primarily because that is what is creating the dis-ease in
Mhm.
their mind, their body, their
Mhm.
wallets, their
Yeah.
relationships.
But it sounds like you also m ask for or at least encourage accountability for the other stuff that they have control over, which is
Yeah.
their thoughts, right? Because otherwise, you can change those subconscious things, but if they're not working on the conscious levels, and what the mind is doing, because the mind is so powerful, right? That they can then end up tricking themselves back into illness and
Yep.
discord, right? And
Indeed.
I think that's beautiful because, often we are we are met with people who are, when they go see a healer, they want to be healed. Like, fix me, Tiffany. Like, just fix me.
Put the
And
Band-Aid on, and I'm like,
yeah.
sorry, I'm not a Band-Aid healer. I don't do one-offs. If you want to work with me, we do deep work over the course of 1 month to 6 months, sometimes even longer, because once they see the value and how much releasing and healing that whatever they originally came to me for, and they see how I can then help them with all the other areas of their life, they're like, okay, let's re-up. And that's
Yeah.
why, this transformation leader that I told you about earlier, she's worked with me for 13 years now. 14
Hmm.
actually. Now it's been 14 years. I'm Now that
Yeah.
I do my math properly. So there's value in doing the deep work.
Hmm.
So for people who are ready for that, they can go to callwithtiffany.com, callwithtiffany.com, and then just schedule a 15-minute free phone call with me. And, I'll see if we're a good fit. Mm, And if we are, then, I'll tell you what some possibilities are and what it might look like to work with me. And if we're not a good fit, I'll refer you elsewhere if there's somebody that comes to mind.
Hmm.
I'm not attached to your stuff. So, if we are a good fit and you're ready, then hallelujah, let's go forward. And if not, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. Right. No, I mean, good for you to not be attached to their stuff. You'd have a lot of stuff that you'd be carrying
That's
around if
right.
everybody
That's
was
right. Not my stuff.
right. What do you do then to, psychically protect yourself, energetically protect yourself when you're working with others?
Lots of prayers, meditation, and energetic boundaries.
Mm,
So, being very empathic and sensitive, HSP, highly sensitive person, my whole life, the spiritual teachers that I had worked with in my teens and 20s said create energetic shields. And though those can be helpful, it wasn't fully protecting me
mm,
from all the contamination and the stuff. And it wasn't until I actually started working with energetic boundaries, which are not a shield, they're a
mm,
boundary. That was actually the biggest saving grace. So learning and I've because it was so valuable to me, and I knew my empaths and intuitives didn't have the training either. I've spent a lot of time teaching people how to have healthy space and boundaries so that they don't sponge up the negative energies from everybody around them.
mm,
I mean, when I was a kid, I would pick up other people's fear or stress and anxiety, and I didn't know it wasn't mine.
Mhm.
Or in my teens or early 20s, I'd do a healing and then I'd feel that person, like if they had a backache, then I'd feel the backache in myself, and so I had to learn over time how to not take on other people's stuff
Mhm.
and not process their emotions for them either.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of compassionate people want to help. Well, that subconscious wanting to help does not mean that you should necessarily help by processing their emotions or taking on their stuff for them. So I had to, unlearn that habit and create
Yeah.
energetic space and boundaries and then teach others how to do it too.
Mm. What a beautiful thing to learn. What's the difference then in a nutshell between an energetic shield versus an energetic boundary? How are they different?
So, an energetic shield, there's at least 15 different types of shields that I've can see clairvoyantly, but one of the main things is that energy doesn't go in and out. Like it just kind of gets stuck within you. And with a boundary, good energies can flow in and out with ease, and then you can be unavailable for the negative energies and
Mm.
I'm a no to that. And there's a grace to it. It's not like coming from a place of fear or F you. It's just a no, thank you. I'm not available for your chaos and drama. No,
Mhm.
sorry. Not my monkeys, not my circus, right?
Mm.
I love you and no.
Mhm. So that's a great distinction. Have you lost friends? Well, I wouldn't say lost, but have have
My
friends
life
kind
has
of
upgraded.
come and go? Okay, yeah, that's a better way to put
Yes,
it.
I would say the circle of people with whom I've, let be in my inner circle has definitely changed over the years.
Mhm.
What's
Yeah.
also changed, interestingly enough, is when I was a kid and in my 20s, I was very extroverted. And then as I started healing more of those wounds of not feeling loved or seen
Mm.
or heard or understood, and the deeper I was meditating, the more introverted I became over time. Like I was no longer searching to feel loved out there by somebody
Yeah.
else because the wound was already healed. So if
Mm.
there is love out there, it's just a bonus. It's not to fill a void. It's not to fill some wound or be driven by it. It's just, uh, you know, a bonus.
Yeah. I've had a similar thing happening for me. I always thought I was an extrovert, and then as the deeper I go, the more I realize actually, I think I'm an introvert. I think that is where and how I gain, regain energy. If you're going to look at those specific
Mm-hmm.
definitions of them, and it's an interesting thing to follow over a lifetime to see how we shift and our needs as they shift. I wonder if that's true of all people we consider extroverts. Or is it only because they are externally seeking and they haven't learned the internal seeking yet? I don't know.
Just through observation of the extroverts that I know, and I'm sure this isn't everybody, but just, in observing the trend, it does seem like a lot of them are trying to fill a void.
Hmm. Yeah. There are so many voids that there seams that we need to fill, through, all right. And I say that because I believe we're all whole and we're all without void when we are sitting within the seat of our soul and really tapped into our true essence of who we are.
Mhm.
That true essence is whole, is healed. There's no voids, there's no pockets of missing shit. It's all just like, boom, we're here. And getting back to that is the journey, right? Getting back to that. And everything you do just sounds like such beautiful guidance for helping people get back to that. I'm going to put all of your links, of course, in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. Is there anything that you want to leave, or I guess what would be the final thoughts or words you'd like to share before we sign off?
Love. To me, I think just being love is the thing that we're meant to be. Loving
Yeah.
God, loving ourselves, seeing the divinity in others, feeling that divinity in every person, every being. I mean, just by going outside and looking at your garden, I mean, that in and of itself, it's like, ah, such beauty, such love right there. And if
Mm,
we could remember that and remember our spiritual nature and live from that space, we would have peace on earth.
mm,
But we've got
mm.
to start from within and then just be that, and it will ripple out.
Be love.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
My pleasure.
Oh, that is so
Mhm.
beautiful. Yeah, the I've been reflecting on that a lot recently of just of that wholeness of our, our being divine, being the divine spark and connection, which is and could be described as love,
Mhm.
pure love, not love of another, but just love of just love